Herzlich willkommen beim ersten Summit des Thanks Day, des World Day for Single Parent Families and Friends. Mein Name ist Maria Stern, ich bin Founderin des Thanks Day und ich freue mich sehr, dich auch bei diesem Interview begrüßen zu dürfen. Heute haben wir einen sehr speziellen Gast, sitzt momentan sehr weit weg und zwar in Australien. Es ist Jenny Davidson. Jenny Davidson hat die Business School absolviert und ist seit über 20 Jahren in Non-Profit-Organisationen tätig. Ihre Schwerpunkte waren dabei immer Frauen und Jugend. Und unter anderem hat sie auch in feministischen Organisationen in Mexiko gearbeitet. Seit 2016 ist sie CEO des Council of Single Mothers and Their Children in Australien. Und sie wird uns bald mehr darüber berichten, was sie tut und was ihre Ziele sind und wie es den alleinerziehenden Müttern in Australien geht und auch ihren Kindern. Das Interview führt wieder Petra Popovic. Petra Popovic studierte Romanistik, Film- und Theaterwissenschaften in Österreich, in Italien und in Frankreich. Sie hat das Filmfestival This Human World aufgesetzt und lebt derzeit als freie Autorin und professionelle Sprecherin gemeinsam mit ihrer Tochter in Wien. Herzlich willkommen, liebe Jenny, liebe Petra. Welcome, dear Jenny and dear Petra.
Danke, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Ich werde mich jetzt zurückziehen. Ich mache die Bühne frei für Jenny und Petra. Ziehe mich zurück und liebe Petra, ich wünsche dir ein wunderbares Interview.
Dankeschön. Hello, Jenny. Very welcome to our summit.
Thank you, Petra.
For the beginning, could you give us some facts and figures on the situation of single parents and their children in Australia before and after Corona?
Sure. There are 765,000 single mother families in Australia. So 13% of families in Australia are headed by a single mother. And then there's more that are also headed by a single father. We work specifically with single mothers, so I have more information on the women's situation. 1 in 4 single mother family are living below the poverty line. So they're really in dire poverty here in Australia, but many more are in financial hardship. For example, we have a national debt of unpaid child support of $1.6 billion in Australia, and that actually the real figure is actually higher than that amount. And we also have a significant number of children, 39% of children being raised in single parent households are living in poverty. So financial hardship is one of the key issues facing single parent families in Australia, specifically single mother families. For instance, we undertook a survey of over 1,000 single mothers across Australia in 2018. And of these, over half had an annual income of less than 40,000 Australian dollars a year, which is really, given the cost of living here, is very, very low. And that's despite the fact that 65% of the people that answered the survey were in paid employment. So if you're relying on government benefits, you're in poverty, but are also in poverty and are very concerned about their long-term financial well-being. And then with the advent of coronavirus in Australia, which really hit our shores this year in March, single mothers lost employment at far, far higher rates than any other family structure. And for instance, at 5 times the rates than mothers in partnered families between March and June, because they were working in a lot of the employment that went first, the jobs that went first, the casual jobs, the hospitality jobs, tourism jobs, the kind of jobs that disappeared first. And so there was a real hit to single mother households, and those repercussions continue. It's very competitive. The job market's competitive. And if you have any barriers to getting a job, it's really difficult to compete now.
Well, we have this problem of poverty very straight connected to single parent families, especially single mothers. Do you have any personal experiences with single mothers or their children since the outbreak of the pandemic that you want to share here with us?
Certainly. There was a lot of challenges. So in my organization, we are all single mothers. So I'm a single mother myself. Certainly one of the challenges that we all experienced was homeschooling our children. So having doing remote learning. The schools still ran classes or gave assignments, but trying to do that. A lot of the low-income single mothers didn't have enough computers or didn't have internet, but a lot of us were also trying to work remotely while homeschooling, which worldwide I think we've all discovered is really difficult to do both at once, to work from home with your children home. And of course, a lot of single mother households didn't have enough space, didn't have, you're locked in the house together. It was very difficult. It was very stressful for families. We also had a lot of challenges. We had a lockdown in my city of Melbourne of 14 weeks. And initially we had a national lockdown, and there was a lot of confusion around whether you're supposed to follow the rules, such as not traveling 5 kilometres from your house, or whether you're supposed to follow the family law rulings that, for instance, you're supposed to take your child to the other parent's house if it's further than 5 kilometres. So we lobbied the court to provide guidance on this. And there were a lot of women worried about what would happen to their child if they became sick, if they didn't have family close, or if they weren't, if they didn't have family support or community support, then what would happen to their child, which has triggered us to take on a project to kind of do more of a simple understanding of the legal rules around guardianship in this country.
Your organization, Council of Single Mothers and Their Children, has been founded in 1970. It's quite a bit of story, and above all, more than 50 years of struggle. What is the concrete effort of the CSMC, your organization, and how has Corona changed your work? Could you give us a short picture of the story of your development? Because I read you fight it for founding. You had a founding, then you lost the complete founding. You had to rebuild it from the scratch. Just tell us a little more.
In the early years, the organization was all run by volunteers. And these, in Australia, single mothers were largely forced to give children up for adoption to two-parent families. They were influenced, they were lied to, they were manipulated. There were lots of very difficult.
Yeah, I was totally shocked.
It went on, particularly from World War II through to the 70s, and women were told that if they really loved their babies, they'd give them up to a real family with two parents. And often they were also really just forced into it. So our organisation was founded by women determined to keep their children and to change that reality for what were called unwed mothers at the time. And they chose to be called single mothers, so be defined by what they were and not by what they worked, not by not being married. And they removed a lot of the stigma. They made a cultural change about about what kind of woman would keep her child. So they really put a lot of stories in media. They lobbied very hard for a couple of years. In 1973, we got the first national government benefit that included single mothers. So they'd been excluded from government benefits. And having that bit of money available to help you support your child or your children, in addition to having changed the social attitudes, the adoption rates just plummeted because women didn't want to be giving up their children. And so that was one of the really big changes, giving women the choice to keep their baby and stopping the practice of babies being forcibly removed from single mothers when they were born. And the struggle's been going on since then. In Australia, the context at a national level has been difficult for sort of the last 20 years. There's been a lot of punitive government policies that try to force single mothers into paid employment, even though, the work that we're doing caring for our children, which is unpaid, is still essential work. Somebody has to look after the children. So it's been a difficult context for the last 20 years. And then coronavirus has made some differences. Our government benefits were raised to a livable amount for about 10 months, which made a big difference to families, but it's back down to very close to the amount of money it was before coronavirus, which puts family in poverty. But of course, we also had all those challenges, the coronavirus, the pressures that coronavirus put on families, the loss of employment, the need to be locked down, the need to do remote learning.
Then we have single Indigenous mothers. Could you give us some details on their situation right now?
Yes. So there's a lot of diversity in First Nations people in Australia, in single mothers. Some are working, a lot are in poverty, but there is a high level of racism in this country. There are racist policies. Indigenous are incarcerated at much higher rates. So there's a lot of single mothers who are incarcerated, who lose custody of their children. Indigenous children are put into child protection, so taken from their families and put into other families at much higher rates than other families. And so they're still being forcibly removed from their families. And then also we have government policies that are very punitive, that are often trialled first on communities with high levels of Indigenous populations, and then they might be rolled out more broadly. But things like controlling how people getting government benefits are able to use their income by using cards that only allow them to use it in particular stores, and not allowing them to take that money out of the bank in cash, which is called income management. And, compulsory participation in employment programs. So all these sort of programs that are widespread now, they target people considered to be at risk of welfare dependence, but they really target single mothers, and they were all trialled in Indigenous communities first here in Australia. So it's a pretty shameful context. The government continues to not work with the Indigenous to come up with programs that are genuinely supporting.
Why do you think is that so?
Well, I mean, it's a colonial history in this country. So there's a very long history of paternalistic and damaging colonial support, colonial control of Indigenous people. And that, of course, extends to single mothers who are, they have racism as well as sexism, as well as punitive attitudes to people parenting on their own, all combining to really make the situation difficult.
So the Australian government doesn't, we could say that in Australia too, doesn't sufficiently support single parents, single mothers and their children. Is that so? If yes, how could it support? And if not, what should it do?
We do have government benefits. So we have a parenting payment single. We also have a parenting payment couple for parents of children under 8 who are unemployed. And they can also work. So parents under 8 who need some income support. And we also have a different version of that for when they're over 8, when the youngest child is over 8, when they're considered unemployed. So they get an unemployment benefit. Unfortunately, the benefits in this country are so low that those families are living in poverty if they are relying on those benefits. Often those single mothers are working, but their work may be sporadic, and that government benefit is their reliable income. So other work might go up and down. So we have a lot of single mother families in poverty as a result of trying to rely on the government benefit. So we're grateful the system is there, but it's not a livable amount of income. Our child support system is also pretty broken. And so we have a lot of people avoiding paying child support. They hide income. They don't put in tax returns. And our child support system is, we call it, a toothless tiger. So doesn't have a lot of ability to follow up on people, that don't pay child support, which would make a difference to these families living in poverty. And we also need more flexible work options for single mothers, more security for women who are working casually. So we need more flexible work. We need more permanent part-time work options, more affordable childcare, more access to superannuation, those sort of wraparound supports. And the final aspect is affordable housing. We have a real issue with the cost of housing in this country.
So you answered already my question. What needs to happen in order that single mothers are thankful to us as a society?
Yeah, well,
exactly this is what you said right now.
Yeah, that's right. Those exact things are the key things, housing, childcare, more work and livable benefits.
What can you learn from single mothers? Are they setting a good example for you? And how?
They certainly are. I mean, look, single mothers are very determined. I mean, we're so diverse in all of our life experience, our age, our family structure, how much we have our children and our financial situation. But single mothers, the uniform thing is that we're determined to do the best for our children and give them the best possible future. So we're a very resilient. Single mothers are very determined and courageous, and they are doing the best they can to provide for their children in whatever context they're in.
For the end, is there to a special single mother, single parent?
Yeah, there are some single mothers that I knew before I became a single mother, which I did early on in my child's life, who were so compassionate and dedicated and determined that it really it was a role model to me that this was something that I could do and that I could do with pride. I'm very proud to be a single mother, and I'm proud to represent this group of determined families who are trying their best, in difficult circumstances and supporting one another. There's a strong network among single mothers, and that was what I was shown by some single mothers very early on in my days, and among the single mothers that I work with. Our organisation, we're all single mothers and we're all professionals as well. We're a professional in the nonprofit sector, but there's a lot of, resilience and there's a lot of drive to make change better for all single mothers.
Indeed. Jenny, it was such a great pleasure having had you here, and we wish you all the best for the future and with your plans, and we keep struggling. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. It's lovely to be talking to single mothers in other countries. This is exactly what we should be doing. It's fantastic that Maria started this initiative.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I have so much to say now. We can start with the resilience, because there's so many people say it's so important that we do this, what you're doing right now. So I chose not to do only one summit a year, but 3. And the September summit will be about single mothers and resilience. So I will try to find a lot of psychologists and people maybe also who work with children to take this subject in the focus. Also in Austria, we had long time the problem that children were taken away when they were from single moms. It was also in Austria that they were until the 60s, early 70s, that they came into children's homes. So I know people now grown up who were in children's homes just because their mothers were not married. And you also had it about the worries of single moms when their children get sick, when they get corona. Well, I have the situation that I'm also a single mom. I have 3 children myself. And I'm so lucky that they're almost grown up, because we all got corona. So that means that also I was sick. And I cannot imagine how it must be, how it is when you're a single mom having corona. But you must get up every day to get the things done, So I'm just lucky, first, that my children are almost grown up, and the second, that I'm a teacher. So homeschooling was good for me as a teacher. But I think so that we have to or can think a little about what it means to be totally alone with children being ill. So this subject could be also a summit. Health and single parent families and health. Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do, and I am so glad, Jenny, that you're on board. See you next time. And Petra, thank you so much for your interview. Und bei dir bedanke ich mich dafür, dass du wieder dir das Interview angehört hast und freue mich auf das nächste Mal.